So why? So in the interest of public safety, you would think that there would be a more emphasis on doing everything in all things possible to prevent somebody from breaking the law again. And I just don't understand why the attitude is not geared towards that.
Because what we're talking about, when the union gets involved, it's all about money. It's all about what programs we can cut, what we can cut so we don't have to cut staff. They tell the department, just like when I was in, they had the vocational, auto body, everybody, all the convicts going out there. They love going out there and getting some type of trade, And a couple of years later, they all implemented all new stuff, and all of a sudden they cut it. They cut the programs because it's all about money. The Department of Corrections headquarters says, "Hey, we got a certain budget to protect. We got to cut positions or we cut staff." Well, the union sees that and says, "You know what? Cut those positions. We're not going to cut staff. We're going to cut those positions." And that's how they do it. They don't think about you guys. They only think about us wearing a green and a star and a badge. They don't want us to be cut and lose staffing at those prisons. So they cut all the programs they can for the convicts and the inmates. They have no programs for them. All they do is have, it's wrong. Because you're right. When they get out, they got nothing to do. They got no trade, no nothing. And then they, if they can't make it on the street, they turn back in and come back into prison. So,
well, I mean,
like a revolving door,
Yeah, I mean, that's partly right. But, I mean, let's just take the convict all the way out of it. Okay, just cut the convict out of the equation altogether. Right? It's really not for them. It's more for public safety. Because a working, productive person who was once a degenerate or a criminal or a drug dealer or whatever he was, when he is basically given the tools to change and given the means to prove that change and given a fair shake and a fair chance, then there is no victim on his end. You have basically reduced victim creating by that one person, by however many people that he would have victimized in however long of a sick one he was on once he got out. And this is the way I've been trying to explain it to people. It's just like we got refugees that come into this country with nothing. They load them up on a boat or in a plane. They bring them here. They give them free room and board. They give them college grants, tax-free breaks, put them in school, do all these things. Why? We didn't tell you to come here. Why not have the same philosophy? You know what I'm saying? It's like my whole thing is this, right? Now take, for example, that one guy that killed that cop up in the city of Whittier some time ago. You heard about that one? The guy that was laughing about it and everything?
Yeah, and they went to court and talked about he killed cops again.
Right, so this guy has been in and out of prison for years. Okay, you gotta believe that at some point in time he wasn't that bad. He was probably bad for a long time, but he wasn't that bad. Let's say that in his first term, we had a compassionate system that emphasized working on change. Or maybe we start to finally wake up and realize that what we're doing in society is that society is failing its people. Because you see all this homeless. I mean, California is out of control as far as taxes and everything else are concerned. You got people just living in the streets, like living in the island of a major street. You've got all kinds of stuff going on. People coming out of prison. There's no jobs. These kind of things like harden the heart. In turn, you've heard the expression, going a petty thief, come out a murderer. You've heard that expression, and that's exactly what it does. It fosters bad behavior, and it just creates more of an atmosphere of disconnect and antisocial behavior and everything else. I mean, everybody in prison, in my opinion, has got psychological problems. Every single one of them.
I mean, exactly. Not jumping off the other end, but I was sort of glad, JD, that I did what I did. I reported wrongdoing and I stuck up for the inmates and convicts and wanted to make sure they had a better life and programming and all that. And I'm proud of what I did, but it took a lot out of me and it hurt me. And it's a place that I thought I would make a a total career and retire that, they cut me short half my career. But I would have done it all over again because, like I said, I took an oath. I swore an oath to upheld and protect. I didn't take an oath to adhere to the code of silence. It was a big change. I lost both my parents. My parents were a ordeal, and my father's last wishes to me before he died, he said, "Son, write a book, man. Get this book out there, share it with everybody because they need to know what's going on." And even my lawyer told me, "You need to sit down, DJ, start writing and typing." I've never wrote a book, JD. Never wrote a book before, and this is my first and last. And I just wanted to share it with everybody. And there's a lot of corruption in this world, but there's a lot of corruption in the CDCR that people don't really know what's going on, and they need to know about this right here. And you got the book too, and
yep, got it right here.
It's just, things need to change, and hopefully it'll change in my lifetime. But I'm not really holding a breath to that because as long as the Department of Corrections doesn't do anything, these guys who are part of the Green Wall, and actually terminate them, get rid of them, it's going to continue. It's going to continue in California. It's going to continue throughout the United States. Even though it's happening in California, it's happening in other prisons in the United States. There's that certain percentage of rogue prison guards that want to make it hard on other staff members to program and do their job. So they're going to make it hard. And I read about it every day. There's something going on in the prison system in the United States where staff are, bringing in drugs, cell phones, beating down inmates. Just recently, they just beat down an inmate in New Jersey or Maine. It's like 3 of them that a female inmate they dragged and brutalized and raped her and all that. And these guys need to be accountable, and maybe they need to go see what behind the walls and walk amongst these guys who they supposedly watch over.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a mess. But yeah, let's talk a little bit now about your book, The Green Wall. And for all yous out there, check out The Green Wall by DJ Vodka. You can find this on Amazon. I'll also leave the direct link in this video for you to find it. I took a couple of notes about this book. I've gone all the way through it. And I got to tell you, man, nobody would never expect in a million years that our elected officials, our tax dollars are paying for a lot of this. Like our tax dollars paid for some of this abuse that you received, people digging into your private life. But I want to start from the beginning. I got a few questions. So how did you really feel walking into that state building for the first time? You're with Joe Reynoso. You guys you're in the Cavalier. You're talking about the law enforcement parking place with just a street corner. What was the night before that like? Did you sleep? Did you throw up? Did you have stomach problem? You said you have an ulcer. So yeah, I got to imagine that you were probably going through some dry heaving.
Yeah, it was because I ended up flying in that night, or actually not flying, but driving into Sacramento that night. And my lawyer came up from Camarillo, Ventura. We stayed in a hotel, and Joe stayed in the same hotel, and it was hard for me to sleep, hard to get any sleep in that. I remember that morning, when you're in a hotel, I got up, had coffee early in the morning, and all of a sudden a newspaper comes sliding under my door, how people in hotels are getting newspapers slide under your door. As soon as I look at it, my story hit the front page of the LA Times. It was all over Associated Press, all through the United States. And I read that and I started getting, this is going to be a big ordeal. And so we had breakfast that morning, and then we ended up going to the state capitol, and Joe said, "Hey, stay next to me." He was armed. He had his weapon on him, and Lanny was on one side. I had California Highway Patrol in front and back. We walked up to the state capitol. I had to go through a metal detector. Joe got to take his weapon in because he was, part of an elite unit. And CHP walked me all the way up to the Burton room, and we opened the doors, and it was a packed house, no seats available. People were standing on the side of the wall. The senators were up top, and ended up going down there and swearing in and telling my story for 2 hours in front of the senators. And those senators backed me 100%. They were going after the Department of Corrections on why this green wall happened at this prison, and nobody knew about it. And they wanted somebody's head. Yeah, there wasn't a day in California when I was living in California. I always looked over my shoulder or whatever, or wear my vest. And actually, when I went up off the grid and up in the hiding area, yeah, I was 20 miles off the grid, 2 lock gates, and I'm sure you saw the picture of that little cabin in the book. That's where I ended up staying for after that night when I had left the Senate hearings. I ended up going up there for about 6 months. And
now, was that a funded like hideout for you, like protective custody? You know, like with SEC
yeah,
and all that stuff?
Yeah, I can't really bring that up because I was told never to bring that stuff up because I think people like that stuff. But
we'll just kill that right there. Yeah.
It was isolated. I mean, you had to go through 2 lock gates off the freeway, and it was beautiful. I got there that night. It was raining and pouring, and the next morning I woke up and there was 2 feet of snow on the ground. So, and then shortly after that, I had to come out of I came out of hiding, and I came back home to where my parents, mom and dad, were living. And my dad got sick later on. A few months later, my father got sick and he had stomach cancer and wasn't going to live about 3 weeks. And I got to visit my father a little bit, talk to him, and he knew what was going on with me. And his last words with me before he died was, "Son, you really need to put this book together. You need to share it with the world." And that was one of his last words to me before he passed.
Yeah, and you did a good job. It's pretty concise. It's brief. It just basically touches on all the fine points.
There's names in the book, JD. I mean, I didn't leave anything out. I mean, my lawyer said, "DJ," and my wife said, "Sit down and start typing." I typed for almost 2 years. I mean, I've got a lot of documentation. Everything in this book, JD, I've got all the documentation to support it. And this book's been out since 2009. And what are we, 12 years? Never been challenged on it. Nobody will ever challenge on it because the union, they won't challenge on me because of everything in this book. I've got all the evidence that supports it to the last period. Because there's names in this book. There's names, there's deposition testimony. Everything in that book is based on true facts.
Yeah, the one thing that I kind of wanted to get a little bit of clarification on was a comment that you made. It was on page 3. I read it and I was trying to understand it. I hope you can maybe like clarify.
Page was it on?
It's on page 3. You said to expose my profession's dirty laundry in public offended me. Was it offensive to you in the way that you couldn't believe that the people that the department you were working for was that dirty, or did it offend you that did you have any kind of like conflict within yourself? Did you feel at some point in time you might have been doing the wrong thing?
No, because you know what? I mean, like I said, I took an oath. I was raised by my mom and dad growing up. You know, you always do the right thing. You have morals, ethics. You know, it's not all about, I had to look at myself in the mirror every day, JD. When I got up and took a shower, put my uniform on, I was proud to wear that uniform. Absolutely proud to wear that uniform because I did the right thing. In my 16 years, JD, I was assaulted one time and that guy wasn't all there. I was gassed. But the convicts and the inmates, they had respect for me. I was a kitchen officer in the SHU for 3 years. I had a great crew. They all loved working for me. When I was a yard officer, I had a crew there. They all would want to come up and work for me. "Boddicker, can we work for you, man? You're cool to us. You don't talk down to us. You show us respect." I always give them respect. I'm talking about, even as an ISU officer, I gave them respect and they gave me that respect back. I never talked down to them. I never threw them against the wall. I never, they're human. I mean, I didn't sentence them. The courts did. We were there to overwatch them, and that's how it's all about respect, I had a bad taste in my mouth for what they did to me. And to this day, I still have a bad taste in my mouth, but it needs to change, and hopefully it changes one day.
Yeah. I mean, we can only hope. The one thing about the whole thing is the one senator that I recognized in all that was Gloria Romero. And I have a little experience with Miss Romero myself. You know what I mean? I've actually corresponded her on a few different things way before that Plata v. Davis came out. We were trying to challenge the fact that all kinds of stuff was happening. Some dude's eyeball exploded, like right in his face, and everybody kept telling him, man, this dude's eyeball is going to explode. It was just bulging out of him and just finally just exploded. They did nothing. I mean, same thing with that Marciano Plata guy. I don't really know who he is, but I remember, you know, people coming at me with class action, and that was from a totally different institution. But I've talked to Gloria Romero a couple of times. You know, she kind of almost ended up ruining her career by dealing with them guys in the shoe, though, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, she highly supported me, because I remember going to a hearing up in San Francisco, and you read the Judge Henderson, Felton Henderson. He wrote a nice memorandum in my book, and he was doing government oversight on the Department of Corrections in Pelican Bay. You know, the corruption there, the code of silence with the union and Pelican Bay when I was up there. It was holding a big court hearing in San Francisco, and she ended up coming to that court hearing, and that's how I met her. And my lawyer met her, and she asked if she's going to be holding this government oversight hearing in Sacramento in a couple weeks, and they would like me to attend it. And that's when I attended. She 100% backed my story. I mean, it wasn't for her and Senator Speer. I mean, they're the ones that spearheaded against the department and wanted to know what was the green wall and what they were doing about officers who came forward, you know, to protect them and all that. And they wanted answers. And
well, they were actually a couple of the very few politicians in the state level that were not funded by the CCPOA.
Correct.
Most of them were pretty much funded. We're talking about Cruz Bustamante to Gray Davis to freaking even Kamala Harris. All of them were taking CCPOA money.
Yep.
And that's why I tell a lot of people, you know, it's regarding Kamala Harris, a lot of these people that are way out here that are outside of the state of California that don't know anything about this woman, you know, have no idea that they're basically supporting a clown because of optics. But this woman is, I mean, when she took over in there, she came in like, you know, there's a new sheriff in town. You were probably already out by then. We're going to clean house. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. She just made it worse, man. You know what I mean?
She was the attorney general for the state of California.
Yeah, she just made things worse. Yeah. Like she was paid by the CCPOA, obviously. A lot of investigations, a lot of these kind of abuse investigations dealing with green walls and other things like that I was well aware of. I even got diesel therapy one time. I'm sure you've heard of that in California. They put me on a bus because Reuters News came in there, and this was right after Kamala Harris had won. You know what I mean? So Reuters News came in there, and they were trying to do a piece on overcrowding in Chino. And of course, you know, being the car that I run with, we can't talk to media, as you know.
Correct.
But I was working on a 602 because I was always in that law stuff in there. And I remember I looked over at this dude and I kind of loudly said, I got your 602 all put together to where they're going to have to give you your colostomy bags. You're not going to be shitting in a lunch bag for very much longer. And these people in the news were appalled. They were like, is this guy actually defecating in a brown sack? Oh, no. We're state-of-the-art receivership medical here. And what's, you know, due to the lawsuit, bullshit. Next thing you know, they told me, they said, get your shit, you're leaving. This was in the middle of the night. They sent me down to R&R, which they used to call it Circus Vargas because Officer Vargas ran that place, but he wasn't there in the middle of the night. They put me on a bus, and I didn't get off that bus, DJ, for several months.
Wow. But,
you know, it's the funny thing about it is, like, I was aware. I've read a lot of the briefs. I read a lot of the motions, the ombudsman, and, you know, inquiries and all these different things that people were writing, letters to the attorney general, specifically when Kamala was in there, and they did nothing. They didn't care. Like they did not care what was going on in there.
As long as they got funded and got money and you know, they didn't really care about anything.
No, she made a fortune off the CCPOA. Yeah. You know?
Once you guys, you know, they don't want to know what happens to you guys behind the walls. The media, the public in California, they don't care about what happens as long as they keep you guys behind the walls and controlled, you know. But it's just like the media didn't know anything about what, you know, the corruption until I exposed it, you know, and now it's a big issue. So, hey, JD, I might have to go in a couple minutes, okay? Because I don't want to cut this short or nothing, but it's great to see you, buddy. It really is. It's great to finally get to meet you face to face.
I wish I could have been under a better camera. It's kind of like tarnishing my beauty on this.
No, you're not good. You don't look your age.
No, I know. That's what doing time will do for you. Why you guys age faster than we do in there.
But I'm glad to get to connect with you and come and talk about my story. And I'm glad I got to send you that book and autograph it for you. And I'm glad you read it. I know I sent it to you a while back, but you've been busy and other issues and stuff. And I'm glad we made that connection, because I've always wanted to do connection with you on this.
Well, I appreciate that. At least you know I read it, right?
Yeah.
You know? Because I even the one that made me the maddest about the whole book was that guy George at the beach, man, with your kid. I mean, your kid. You know, you can't call he can't call you on the phone and say, "Hey, man, meet me at this coffee shop. I got to talk to you."
Yeah. He walked up on me and
trying to impress that broad that he was with, obviously. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Walked up on me in front of my son and threatened me to drop the case. Don't do it. You're a rat anyways. And my son was like 5 years old at the time. He was crying, "Daddy, what happened? What happened?" And I got him out of there right away and took him back up where he was living at the time.
Yeah, I had. Don't get mad at me, DJ, but I had to laugh when you were talking about the gassing part, man, and you just like ran in there and was puking and all that stuff. It was like the worst smell that you ever.
So what's the smell?
At least you could run out of there, and I mean that smell lingers in there for fucking hours.
And especially if you live with somebody in that cell and you didn't do it, you still have to smell it. So, and then how it's fermenting in there for a couple of days, and all of a sudden they throw it on you. But yeah, it's a nasty smell.
Yeah, I was going to ask you before you go. So you've experienced the gassing. Have you ever experienced the pig sticks?
You mean when they spear you?
Yeah.
No.
So you know what I'm talking about.
When they
dip that thing down into that shit.
Yeah, and they judge you through the holes, how big you are, how tall you are. They watch how you walk by, and then they
shoot it at you. Yeah.
Shoot that blow dart at you, and hopefully it sticks you in between your vest or whatever. Yeah, but no, I haven't. I've seen it. Have you
ever seen the infection that it creates?
Nasty. It's nasty.
Yeah. So they got.
Most of those guys, JD. Most of those guys that do that, they don't care. They got life. They don't care. What are you going to do to somebody else's life?
Well, I know there was one guy that they were arguing on the tier for a long time, and fucking this happened over in Palm Hall, right? That guy went walking through. Next thing you know, he was like, "Yeah." Right, and they ran him out of there. Dude had a spear stuck in his side. Right, you could smell it.
I hate to say that, but if that CO got speared, there was a reason behind it. If that CO disrespected him or disrespected others, and probably got speared because of that reason. Like I said, they're not going to spear you for no reason.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It was now that like I said, man, I don't know if this happens to you, but all these years and all these institutions, they all just kind of bleed together,
Mm-hmm.
The guy in the next cell said, "Man, did you smell that?" He's like, "Yeah, that dude got pig stick, man." It was an inmate that he hit. They were taking him out. They had him in cuffs. They're taking him out and got him. And fucking, yeah, supposedly that dude ended up getting gangrene for that shit.
Yeah, it's nasty stuff. Anyways, buddy, hey, I got to go. But it was great seeing you and great hearing from you.
Do you want to hear the over dramatic, our arrogant, sarcastic closeout to the show? I'm sure you've heard it before.
Oh no, I love to hear it. I watch your show all the time on YouTube.
All right, well here's the whole highlight of it. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, non-sugarcoat, not politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that. What are we slapping them with?
I like it.
With a dick of reality, we're slapping them with. That's what it is.
I'm not going to say that on camera. I'll let you say that on camera.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. It's arrogant and sarcastic, and it makes people upset.